Well, since the NHL Draft, 9 players have been shipped off by the Golden Knights, including fan favorite Jonathan Marchessault. He's gone. That leaves only 3 original misfits, Carlson, McNabb, and Theodore, and Shea could be going too. Bottom line, VGK fans are going to have to get used to a very new look team. There's lots to discuss, and we have the perfect panel to break it all down. Let's do this thing. Sin City Beat starts right now.
From Las Vegas, this is Sin City Beat.
Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us on Sin City Beat. I'm Mike Davis. We got a big time show today as we break down all the drama surrounding our beloved Vegas Golden Knights. Everything from the mass exodus of key players, fan favorites, and the selection of a troubled prospect with a lot of baggage from the draft. So good thing we have the firepower from a tremendous panel today. Joining the action, we have Case Kiefer, assistant sports editor of the Las Vegas Sun. His teammate, Jack Williams, Golden Knights reporter with the Las Vegas Sun, and Ryan Wallace, radio host for the VGK Insider Show and pre- and post-game host for VGK on Fox Sports Radio. So great to have you guys with us. Where to begin? Case, I'm going to start with you. Let's break down the free agency losses right now. We know Jonathan Marchessault, he's gone, and it's soul-crushing for a lot of fans, obviously. How big of a loss is this for the team, their future success, and did you see this coming?
I did see it coming. I think everyone that asked me, is he going to stay, is he going to go, I thought the signs were kind of pointing towards him going, and I got to take a pause for a second. I got to prepare myself. I'm probably going to get some hate mail. I've been letting Jack write about it, kind of be on the front line, so I haven't put my feelings out there. But I honestly don't have a huge problem with how this went. Look, I understand emotionally, one of the pillars of the franchise, all-time leading scorer, people are going to be upset about it. People aren't going to be happy. But what has guided the Golden Knights from day one? They have been ruthless. It has been more about the bottom line, more about winning, more about the long-term prospects of the franchise. And what have they done? They've won a Stanley Cup. They've been one of the best teams in the NHL for 7 years. I think giving Jonathan Marchessault the deal he wanted, the deal he was after, and I think they made a competitive shorter-term offer that he didn't take. I think it would have handicapped them long-term. It hurts to see him go, but I honestly think it's probably a better thing for the Golden Knights long-term.
So he really was fixated, obviously, on the length of the deal, Marchessault. Knights weren't really interested in that. Jack, though, to me, you wrote a very great piece on this in the Las Vegas Sun. I'm very hurt by this because it almost seems like every time there's a dynamic moment, a critical, crucial moment in VGK history, this guy is making stuff happen. And to let him go, what he just means beyond the ice, but for the locker room, this is a major loss.
I mean, not to be blunt and stuff like that, but I felt like it was kind of a failure on their part, just because this is an organization that was really, he did a lot for it, as you said. The guys in the locker room did not want him to leave. Bruce Cassidy didn't want him to leave. After the season ended with availability, it really sounded like he wanted to make this home for the rest of his life with his family and really wanted to end his career with this organization. And I don't know how conversations went with the GM and all that in the front office and all that, but Marchessault went on TSN, said they didn't try hard enough. Kelly McCrimmon said something different and said, that's not right. At the same time, I don't know if the effort was really there to keep them. I don't know why it was such a big deal that he was going to end his career at 37, 38 years old in Vegas. I don't understand why that is so long to keep such a critical piece to your team, your organization, this city, and just the identity of this team. If I was in the GM seat, I would have offloaded basically all those free agents and done everything I could to keep them. And I kind of don't really understand why he's gone.
And let's just say, Ryan, if it's a 5-year deal he's seeking and they're offering a 3-year deal, to eat those 2 years, is that such a big deal?
It is. When you're trying to be competitive, when you are trying to, and the goal is every year to win a Stanley Cup, if you've got a player at 36, 37, 38 years old who is not living up to a $5.5 million contract, as aging curves would suggest would be the case with Jonathan Marchessault, it hamstrings you. So the fact of the matter is, it might be unpopular, but the fact that you can't go 5 years at $5.5 million with a guy like Jonathan Marchessault. As good as he is, as many big goals as he's scored for this team, you have to make your entire team better, and that's not something you can do with that contract at that time.
So why do the Predators do it?
Well, they gave him 4 years, right?
No,
they didn't give him 5. They gave him full 5.
5.
The Predators, they're just spending money freely. They did the same thing with Steven Stamkos. What have the Predators done in the last few years? Remind me, they made the Western Conference Final, I think the first year of the Golden Knights, maybe the second.
Right.
We all sat here, or at least you and I sat here at the trade deadline and gave the Golden Knights so much praise. Look at what they pulled off. They brought these guys in. They did it again. You can't at once praise their aggressive strategy, how great they've been in making all these decisions, and then say, well, when things get tough, they're going to have to let guys go. We've seen it before. I think the writing was on the wall. We've kind of seen it again. I think this front office, I get they're kind of unlikable. The brash way they've done things has rubbed people the wrong way, but I think they've got the benefit of the doubt with some hockey decisions, even more than Nashville, in my opinion.
All right, listen, when you win a cup, you got to follow suit with a lot of, you got to think they know what they're talking about. Let's talk beyond those guys, beyond Marchessault. There's, 9 guys left. Who's going to be another critical piece who we, nobody's talking about that we're really going to miss, Jack?
That's a great question. Chandler Stevenson's another great guy that has been put into that role, and I think he really scored a good contract out in Seattle. He didn't really, in the playoffs, we saw his game kind of dwindle a little bit more, but he's been an important piece into, just everything he did. William Carrier, I believe, is another original misfit that is on the way out as well. Logan Thompson, who was traded, they had a good situation with the goalies going there. I know they wanted to commit a little bit to Aiden Hill. Logan Thompson, it seems he got the short end of the stick there, but it was good that they had a tandem with, kind of 2, starters to go to here and there. Trying to think of who the other free agents were.
There's a ton. Of losses. What do you guys feel on this?
So for me, it's not the sexiest pick, but it's Michael Amadio, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is a player who was a waiver wire pickup just a couple of years ago for the Golden Knights. Finds himself in a great opportunity here with Bruce Cassidy in this system, playing alongside William Karlsson. Karlsson scored 30 goals last year, and a big reason why is because he had Michael Amadio on his wing. Amadio's got great skill, elite hockey sense in the offensive zone, and not dissimilar to Mark Stone. He's not the same type of player, obviously, but he's got a great defensive stick in the neutral zone. He's able to knife pucks down. When you can couple that with Karlsson, the speed that he brings to the table, it solidified the third line for the first time ever for the Vegas Golden Knights, and they won a Stanley Cup because of it.
All right, see, there you go. All right, so guys, beyond these 9 players that we lost that are leaving, the Knights also added some pieces. Now, after the break, we're going to be telling you which new guy will have the biggest impact on this team. Stick around.
You're watching Sin City Beat.
All right, welcome back to Sin City Beat. Well, beyond the subtractions, the Knights made a few additions. One of those additions is 27-year-old goaltender Ilya Samsonov, the likely backup for Aiden Hill. Jack Williams, which newcomer is going to have the biggest impact on this team?
I got to agree with you there. Ilya Samsonov is going to have, in my opinion, the biggest impact here just because he's been offered what they've been calling a show-me contract. That 1-year contract. I know in Toronto he was kind of up and down, stuff like that. He's replacing Logan Thompson. And again, like I mentioned, him and Aiden Hill had that tandem where either one of them could start for a stretch. And for a while, Logan Thompson was a starter when Aiden Hill was out, got switched out in the playoffs, and Aiden Hill took over. If they want to have that seamless transition, Samsonov is going to have to show that he can be that. Again, it's been up and down kind of it during his time in Toronto and stuff like that, but he's going to really have to step up and show that he can be a backup and possibly push Aiden Hill for that starting position.
All right, see, I agree. I think goalie play is always big in the NHL. What about you guys? What about the additions that are really striking to you?
So, I'll take Victor Olofsson. Obviously, this is a guy that scored goals in the National Hockey League. So he's got 3 20-goal seasons. 1 year he scored 28 goals. That's huge. That's big. Then you couple that with the fact that he's got, of his 90 career NHL goals, 35 have come on the power play, and he's played with Jack Eichel in the past. I think Victor Olofsson has a really good chance to come into a spot, be given a legitimate push to be a top 6 guy, and be counted on to score. If he does it, great. If he doesn't, it's a low risk contract. You're not paying him that much, just a little north of $1 million. I think given what was out there, it's a good pickup by the Golden Knights.
Yeah, 28 and 30 goals, that's nothing to definitely snuff at. Case, what about you? When you're seeing all these losses, all these subtractions, it's such a new look team for fans that are casual, that are intense fans. It's going to be a new look franchise for a lot of people. What do you think in terms of additions? Who is somebody that we're going to fall in love with?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just since we're hitting all the bases, the trade with the Devils, of course, I know we already mentioned Ilya Samsonov, but you get Akira Schmid in, who wasn't great last year, but 2 years ago, the kid was red hot at the end of the season, into the playoffs. And I don't know, something about Bruce Cassidy's systems, it brings the best out of all these goalies. No one was banging the table super excited when Aiden Hill came in 2 years ago, and he ends up being a huge part of a Stanley Cup final run. They also get the winger Holtz in that trade, who, if you look at Devils fans fans, they were devastated to lose this guy. I know he's electric, he's a scorer. There's some things he's going to have to do better as far as, I think, puck movement, defense, but he's a guy that if you develop, and Vegas has shown they can develop some of these guys, that they have found some value in these trades. I think both the guys they got from the Devils could be guys to watch going forward.
What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, when it comes to Alexander Holtz, like you're talking about pedigree, right? 7th overall pick just in 2020. Shoots the puck really well. He's got a great shot. It's going to be the play away from the puck that is really the area he's going to have to get better. But if you align him with, say, a William Karlsson, that's really going to push itself to the surface. When it comes to the additions, I like all three. Samsonov, I really like Holtz, I really like Olofsson. But maybe we reframe this a little bit in terms of who the Golden Knights have, the younger talent that needs to break through. Pavel Dorofeyev, to me, is one of those guys. You commit to him with a 2-year contract, $1.84 million thereabouts, and that's a guy that I think you're expecting to take a step, and if he does, you might be looking at 20 goals, 25 goals from that player.
Wow, all right, I see. I love all this stuff. Man, Ryan, talk about addition to Sin City Beat. How about Ryan? We're loving this guy on the panel. All right, another addition we need to talk about is new first-round draft pick, Trevor Connolly. Yeah, on the ice, he looks good. Off the ice, it's another story. Did GM Kelly McCrimmon make a blunder? The panel is going to answer next. The spectacle of the NHL Draft at the Sphere was surely a sight to see. Everybody's talking about the magical event, just like everyone's talking about VGK's selection at 19th overall. 18-year-old Trevor Connolly has shown enough promise on the ice to warrant a first-round draft grade. Off the ice, that's a whole nother story. Let's just say he comes with some baggage. 2 years ago, Connolly was hanging at a library with a teammate who decided to make a swastika out of children's building blocks. VGK's Connolly went on to take a pic and post it to his Snapchat story. He later deleted the post minutes afterwards. Now, the photo circulated on the internet for the next 17 months. You think the problem stopped there? Nope. Connolly allegedly used a racial slur towards an opponent during a game in 2021. He was suspended from play, but then the suspension was lifted upon further investigations. Problems, and more problems. There's even something about urine and some pads we're going to get into. So the Tustin, California native, now committed to playing collegiately at Providence next season, said, quote, "I've made mistakes as a kid, and I'm such a different person now." Such a different person. Ryan, did GM Kelly McCrimmon make a mistake drafting this problem child?
When you look at what Trevor Connolly can bring on the ice, no. You're talking about top 5, top 10 skill that you're bringing into the organization at 19th overall. Like that is what you're looking for in a transition period to a degree for the Golden Knights, where you're looking at the next 5, 10 years.
So why at 19? Why did 18 other teams pass on him if he's a top 5 talent?
I think because of what you just mentioned, right? The off-ice stuff, which you cannot divorce from this. You cannot put that in a bag and not talk about it or pretend that it doesn't exist. However, if you're going to look at it and ask me from a perspective of on the ice, what this kid can bring to the table, it's a good pick by the Golden Knights. The onus, though, is now on the organization. The onus now is on the player, on Trevor Connolly, to prove that what happened in the past is not truly a reflection of who he is moving forward. And, I'm not going to sit here and say cancel culture is the way to go. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is you need to take the steps to prove that the organization believing in you at 19 was the right decision. And you do that by proving that what you've done in the past was simply mistakes, and you move forward and you try to get better every day. And you have to have the receipts for that.
Case, you called this last week on the show. I was starting to get worked up, but you called this. You knew this was going to happen. How big of a mistake is this from, beyond the ice stuff? Is this going to come back to haunt this organization?
I stutter to say this because I know you're not. I don't necessarily see it coming back on them. It could. There's a lot of concerns there. I'm not excusing anything he did.
You said in the green room to me, not before we started taping, you were like, listen, I thought there was a couple things here, but now you just keep seeing a pattern, right? There's a pattern of bad choices here, right?
Yeah, once I dove more into it, once the pick, what you see, it wasn't just the swastika incident. He's had issues with teammates. He's had, run off of several different teams. I think he played for like 7 junior teams or something crazy like that. The one thing I will say a little bit in his defense and why I don't think what Ryan was saying, that he can show he's changed, is out of the question, is I don't want to be judged by what I did at 16. Thank God social media wasn't as prevalent there. Not to say I was, as problem child as this kid.
I just hate that argument, though. Case, at 16, were you posting swastikas on your social media?
Well, I didn't have the opportunity, thankfully. Social media wasn't as
That's the
no,
thing. I
wasn't
wasn't doing that at 6. That's why it's not a good argument, because at 16, I wasn't doing that against other groups. So I just get worked up. Listen, everybody at home, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm unbiased. I'm a proud Jewish American. I'm upset about this pick. I think this is bad for a multitude of reasons. Jack, I don't want to step on your shoes here. But let's just talk about this for a second. VGK, Vegas Golden Knights, for this city, what this organization has meant to the community after an incident like 1 October, having players that are so intertwined with the culture and the community, being front-facing citizens who are more than just hockey players. It's about culture, it's about community, it's about drafting good people, right? Aligning yourself with good citizens and good people. This is a major misstep to bring in somebody to a culture that I think is doing perfectly well. It's like now we're okay, and now all of a sudden we're gonna bring in somebody who doesn't demonstrate the standards and the pillars that we've leaned on for so many years. Jack, help me out here.
I mean, yeah, I completely understand, when you're talking about the off-ice stuff that he did and, what this organization means to the city and, the community connection it's had. If you put that, next to the things that happened with Marchessault this week as well, it's not been a good week when we're talking about, community and fan association with the organization, the draft pick and, trading away, not trading away, but, not being able to match a contract with, a fan favorite player and a player that's been very good for the organization. No, it's not good at all when it looks like this. I understand why they made the pick. He's a talented player. He has really good skills on the ice. He had a really, strong showing so far in development camp. He's really going to have to show in the next few years just his growth and development off the ice. You mentioned a pattern and stuff like that. He is going to college. He's going to be playing at in Hockey East Division I, which is a league that they're not going to give you any grief at all. They're going to give it up to you straightforward. He's going to have to do a lot of growing in this time, and if Vegas wants to invest into him, they're going to keep track of him. Kelly McCrimmon talked about Will Nickel, who is the Vegas Golden Knights head of scouting, and how big of a role that he's going to have to play in communicating with Connolly over and seeing his progress and making sure that he's staying in line. So right now it does look bad, but the bigger thing, in my opinion, is going to be these next few years coming up and showing that he can grow. And if he doesn't, then I guess it just shows what you've been saying.
I'm just not close-minded to him getting a second chance. That's why I think
I'm sure he's going to feel super, comfortable with all the anti-Semitism on college campuses nowadays. He's going to feel right at home at Providence.
Just one other way to kind of look at it. Now, I'm Jewish too, right? I think that the part you were talking about the culture within the Vegas Golden Knights, what this team's been able to do for this city, and how they've conducted themselves as a team, as a group. Your culture can change things for the better. And if it takes Trevor Connolly in this spot and it changes him for the better, maybe the legwork's already been started with Connolly, but if bringing him into this scenario, in this organization with this group of people, can make him better moving forward, then that's one way of tackling some of the more complex societal things that are going on today.
It's an unfortunate situation. It's going to be hard to root for this guy, and I can't fathom the prospect of young kids going into the Armory and wearing a Connolly jersey, but we'll see what happens with that. All right, next, I'm asking the ultimate question. After all these moves, are the Vegas Golden Knights still contenders? The panel answers next. All right, welcome back. So we're now going to fully take in the aftermath of the draft and NHL free agency. So where do we ultimately sit? There's a lot of change. The question remains, though, are the Knights still contenders? So, Case, where does this team sit right now? Are we still Stanley Cup contenders?
An emphatic yes. Of course this team is Stanley Cup contenders. I mean, I know it's going to look a lot different, but they go into the playoffs this past year with guys that hadn't played together. They take the Stars, who were probably the best team in the West if you look at the season as a whole. They take them to 7 games, almost knock them off. The Stanley Cup, there's always a whole bunch of teams that can win it. I think anyone's going a little too far. Look at their defense. They still have one of the best defensive cores in the league. They are one of the 7 or 8 best teams at minimum, and to me, that's a Stanley Cup contender.
I get worried, when we talk about sports, when we talk about teams that have the championship DNA, they've built it up, they won the cup, they've won the championship, and now you start removing critical pieces of that. Is it hard to start, to keep those intangibles that are in the locker room and that are present? Does that get lost?
I think it does to a degree, but you've still got a nucleus that includes Jack Eichel, Mark Stone. You bring Tomas Hertl into the fold. William Karlsson's one of the hardest workers. And then that's just talking about forwards. You look at what you've got on the back end, Pietrangelo, Hanifin. Hanifin's an upgrade in many, many respects. But then you look at the Golden Knights, as Case was talking about defensively, like they've got 8 guys that are everyday NHL defensemen, with Caden Korzak getting another contract and kind of pushing himself to the forefront there. So I know what the Golden Knights look like today. My expectation is that at some point, whether it be at the trade deadline next year, whether it be before training camp opens, that there's probably a couple of other players that we're talking about that are infused into this lineup. And in that scenario, I think they've improved their goaltending with Samsonov. I think that they are one of the best teams in terms of defensive depth and high-end skill. And I think offensively, they'll be able to find enough goals because you've got guys on prove-it contracts that are really looking to rehabilitate their career and can help you on the power play, which has been an area of emphasis for the Golden Knights for a long time.
Okay, so we know defensively, goalie play, we're liking a lot of this stuff. And I like what you said earlier, Ryan. There's a lot of guys in the fold who need to take that next step, that big jump to help out this team. What's the biggest question mark, though, for this team as we head into the new season?
I think, like you've been saying, it's the gap, I think, in the locker room that Marchessault has left and who's going to fill that, or who, people-wise, are going to fill that in general. He was a big leader on the team. He did a lot of production on the ice as well. I still think there's all the pieces there to get it done. I mean, Jack Eichel, William Karlsson, Tomas Hertl. I mean, all those guys, coming together could really come up and fill that gap. Mark Stone, obviously the captain. I think that gap is going to be the biggest challenge to fill, but I don't think it's going to be a huge challenge.
All right, there you go. Guys, I want to thank everybody here. Ryan, Case, Jack, we had such a great show. We'll see you next time on Sin City Beat.